Check 1 2, check 1 2. We are live. Hello, comrades, and welcome to another episode of Under Construction. I forgot to make a post about uh, or a poll about should I start pinging for the beginning of the show. Give me a second to put this where I need to put this. That's there. This is here. I need to put this window off to the side of the screen where it belongs. I saw 7 o'clock and I just hit start. I didn't even really think about if everything was ready to go or not. Let me make sure everything's up here on the root layer. And yeah. Let's do some not Tetris to get ready this morning. I don't know why I'm suddenly not very talkative. You know, usually I'm talking to myself before the show to get ready. Come up with topics. I don't know. I had very little figured out. I am in the midst of all sorts of stuff around production, and nothing is far enough in any direction that there's like anything for me to announce. There's nothing exciting really. I'm just messing with the terminus and working on the trading cards and all that jazz. So we'll see how everything turns out and how long it takes for things to turn out, given time. But yeah, no, I have no exhaustive list of topics. I've got nothing in particular that's on my mind. I mean, I have plenty of stuff that I could talk about. Once people start getting here, I know there were a couple of topics that I was attempting to broach last episode, and then they just got all the way off my radar very quickly. I wanted to talk about the Appalachian Railway, and sort of, I think it's a half-decent case study on route building. At least with respect to how we are route building here on Tolbrand. The reason I say that is because, and I'll enumerate this a little bit more later. I'll go off on this later, I think. But it is, and I assume that most other railroader maps, whenever that becomes a thing. Hello, Orion. Whenever that becomes a thing, whenever you can make maps from whole cloth, I think that they will be bound sort of by the same constraints that we are here on Tolbrand in terms of what we can and should be building. And that's sort of a weird thing to say. It's a weird comparison to make because this is a train simulator, and that is, more of a game. And again, I don't say that derisively. I'm saying that to draw a line between stuff that has gamified aspects and stuff that you come on to, run for a couple of hours with either no particular purpose or one specific scenario that's going to wrap up fairly soon. Now, of course, Tolbrand is neither of those things. Well, I mean, I guess it is the first now because of the way that Living Railroad and stuff is evolving. But, it's the kind of thing where it does fall more into that category than into something, it's a sandbox, I should say. I can say that very succinctly. Simulators are generally a sandbox, and not very much more than that. Railroader has a sandbox mode, but that is not that's not the thing that people come to the game for. I mean, I know a bunch of people that play in sandbox mode, some almost exclusively, but that's, the game is about building your railroad out. Yes, my love.
Well, they definitely fall off the bone.
Did they all fall off the bone?
I don't even think I could cut them to, I don't I'm going to try and lift them out of the aluminum foil and try to cut them like they're falling off the bone.
Awesome. I wish I wasn't doing this right now so I could enjoy some ribs. I will not be having ribs at this time. Not only because it will be a disaster for me to try to eat them.
But they're not
Uh,
even like sticky. They're like.
yeah, but they're finger food. I can't eat that and also do this.
I made a ribs.
I know you made
I made
ribs.
the
I'm
ribs.
excited to eat them. I just can't do it right this second.
I made the ribs.
Yeah. Are ribs like an Italian thing to you?
No.
I made it a ribs. Babada boobada beebada boobada. I make it a ribs. You know, like Luigi and Mario. That's what they do. Help.
Nobody can help you, okay?
Where's Gianna?
Gianna left.
Oh.
She had to go get sunset.
Oh, okay.
She's gonna come back tomorrow and cut my hair. We're not shaving it. We're just cutting it.
Okay. Could I have some water though? If I, I'm sorry that I'm besmirching the ribs. I won't go for too long. I'm sure I'm gonna run out of voice. I mean, if you want me to eat the ribs sooner, then I guess don't get me water, because then my throat will get all scratchy, and then I won't be able to make as long of an episode. But I would really appreciate it if you got me water, because you love me and stuff. Thank you.
I would offer you ice, but there's no ice.
There's no ice? What happened to the ice? Moose has some good ribs. Moose ribs. You allowed to hunt moose? I assume they're not. I never hear about somebody doing that. Moose are also enormous. I would not want to F with a moose. Or bear, And I know, like, a bear is a carnivore, or at least an omnivore in some situations, but, and a moose is not, but a moose will still F you up. I saw a video earlier today of someone like, okay, well, what are you, a Turkish ice cream vendor? Gloria pulls it away from me as I reach for the thing. Okay. Oop. Why don't you want to eat? Well, I don't know. Put them in the oven under warm. Then I don't know. Yeah. Oh shoot. Did they spill out of the tray?
They were like bubbling out of the oil.
Well, at least they came out like that this time. What do you think the difference is? What do we do differently?
I think that was long. Like
Oh, okay.
On a higher temperature, but not for long.
Oh, really? I figured it would have been the opposite. I've always, people always sort of bring out their, oh, I smoked this for 12 hours or whatever, and it's like that's how you get the fall off the bone or whatever. But I'm surprised that the opposite worked. Let's see. In certain states, deer is good, cattle too. Had a lot of different meat. I've yet to try alligator. I've tried alligator, although it was fried. So, I don't know. I'm not sure if that should count. Is the thing. If you try a kind of meat, but you've tried it fried, like you can fry anything. You fry something, it sort of all tastes decent. And yeah, it was a little different. It was like, it was like chicken, but with a little bit more texture, like pork. I don't know if I would call it gamey. Gloria calls it gamey. I'm not sure if I would characterize it that way, but gator, yeah, it was something. I'm like, I know I'm saying I tried it pretty much just to say I tried it. I mean, I had fried gator bites, which I had so that I could say I had gator, and now I'm saying that shouldn't count. Maybe I'm just sort of recognizing how good I have it. I'm over here bragging about it, and maybe I shouldn't be. Uh-oh. we're losing it. Hey, Train Street. We're on level 5. Stuff is coming hard and fast. Um, uh, let's park this over here. I need to start looking at the piece before I get it, because I'm losing it. Oh no, over there. Okay, this can go over here. No, that's angled in. We're screwed. Gloria's struggling. 2 more days until the Steamworks is ours. 2 more days until something. I'm definitely gonna go and hang out. I don't know what my plan is. I'm gonna bring the dog. I'm gonna bring you. I checked with my friend who works over there. She's gonna be working that day, so I'm excited to see her at least. And oh no, that's gonna be it. All right, we're done. I'm sure I couldn't eat them if I wanted to. Okay, we got the little animation though. So we made it over 5,000 points. I don't think we got into the leaderboard though. No new high score today. And I'm coming into Tolbrand here without a plan. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm coming into Tolbrand here without a plan, without an idea of what I want to do. We can do some really boring stuff. We can go work on the car spawners, but who wants to start out like that, right? Something I should do is maybe make a... Yeah, you just missed it. You missed it by like 30 seconds. I just finished up playing Not Tetris. Um, I'm sorry. And that one went for a little while, too. You had a little while to get in here. I was wondering if I should start pinging the server for this starting. I'm probably going to make a poll just to see what people think. Okay, we've got some buildings over here that look half decent. Well, Ash, you'll just have to watch the VOD. You'll have to go back and watch the first, first handful of minutes. They don't look appetizing, no. But it's okay it's okay as long as they taste appetizing. What do you mean you suck? Except you don't know if they're good yet. Ashcat Trainz says hi, Gloria. Okay. Should I do this? This is a triangle that I'm needing to finish to sort of button this area up. I also need to do these whole stretches, which is going to be a lot of fences and driveways, which is super monotonous. And then I need to figure out what I'm doing down the line here. We talked at the end of last episode about hitching this to the right and then back around to the left, but I don't know if we're gonna do that. That is what even is that shape? Yeah, no. Don't worry. When I'm saying triangles, you play it during school more time than I spend doing actual classwork. You play not Tetris? What is your high score if you'd play? I must know. Okay, yeah, I need to figure out what the heck I'm doing because I'm just sort of moseying over this. I'm just sort of moseying over the world, over the landscape here. And I might just screw it and leave it like this. I mean, some of these things they have, it's blocked on the staff Wi-Fi. Also, yeah, I'm not gonna. I don't care about the shop plan. I think it's cool that you guys have one. I think it's good that you have one, really. I am not gonna follow it because I'm not really there to take pictures. I'm just kind of there to hang out and see trains go by. You can make a section of forest that's in the city for no reason. I'm sure we will get some areas that are undeveloped. We have stuff like this already, which is sort of a dividing line between this area and the rest of the city, and same thing with over here. Which I don't remember what this is. I think this is Dells. It was originally the town of Dells. Okay. See, back in my day, we had cool math games.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So computer is still quite unhappy. It's running better than it was when I was dicking around in Railroader, and I want to go back to the comment about Railroader that once you get the railroad large enough, it's more of a chore than anything. I don't disagree, but here's my but that goes along with that. Um, the thing with Railroader is when the railroad is small, uh, when the railroad is small, it is easier to finish out the day. It takes less time to finish out the day. However, it takes more time, or it takes more time to do anything. You get less money per run of the railroad, less money per day, less money per switching everything out, which means that you're doing the same things over and over again, back to back, much more closely. That's sort of my that's sort of my caveat there. Um, you know, I think if you have a situation where you can, it takes you 6 hours to get the whole day done, and you switch everything once. I like that more than it takes me 1 hour to get the whole day done, but in a 6 hour span, I'm switching Appalachian hardwoods 5 times. Um, I I think that it being a little bit varied and stuff is it balances itself out. If you're worried about I got to get to the end of today, you're gonna burn yourself out. Um, and I think that's what it leads people to. But Railroader is absolutely a game best enjoyed with friends. So, what can I say about that? It is monotonous to do a whole railroad by yourself in single player, but that kind of is what it is. I mean, if you don't want a lot of railroad, don't get a lot of railroad. Don't do the milestones to make it bigger. If you're happy with a smaller run, then have a smaller run. Something that I like, um, something that I sort of have considered doing is if you have the whole railroad but you keep everything on tier 1 contracts, then you don't switch out everything 2 times a day. Um, do you have run on cool math in your day? What? The boys? Yeah, they're beggars. I don't know. I actually, Cool Math Games is the one that I remember the name of. Cool Math Games is, hey Pat, Cool Math Games is not the one that I spent a lot of time on. The one that I remember the most was Addicting Games. Um, and there were a whole bunch of others, and I wonder if I still have some of them bookmarked. Uh, no, I don't think so. The Casual Collective, and then there was Arcade Prehacks, which had like all of the, all of the Flash games, but there were, but like everything was unlocked and stuff. There was a long fight to keep certain games on that site or not, which is interesting because some of the games had monetization, and by putting them up on there with everything unlocked, you were just undercutting the developers. The games that were up on there that were sometimes there, sometimes not, were the if you remember Rails of War or Rail of War or whatever it was called, the top-down game. Now I have that actually. I've been tempted to do that to start the show instead of not Tetris. Um, and if you are missing out on Flash games, there is a program called Flashpoint, if I remember right. And it has like all of the Flash games you could ever want. And it runs, outside of your browser, so you don't need to worry about the fact that Flash is dead. The Not Tetris is the thing. I feel like it'd be weird to let it go. I think one time I did Sand Tetris, which was neat. Which was neat. I can't complain about that. That was a fun little experience. It shook things up a little bit. But not Tetris is how we start the show. Something that I think I need to do, and I'm trying to grow the channel. I'm trying to grow attentiveness towards the channel, which is the real difficult part. We've been slowly growing for the last 10 years, right? 15 years almost. When did I start this channel? It was like 2011, 2012 when I bought this computer. Now every single part has been replaced other than the case and the keyboard and the monitor. But I think I need to put a big disclaimer at the top of the screen that says the stream will start shortly while I'm doing that. And that way it's clear that, like, hey, this isn't the stream, this is the pre-stream. And I've been tempted to sort of put the link different places. Oh, speaking of which, I forgot to send it in there. Um, but yeah, I think the message of the day, or the topic of the day, I would love it to be railroad, or in particular the Appalachian Railway. If anyone here has touched the Appalachian Railway, which is the enormous add-on, it's like 30 miles long. Feel free to sound off, because I want to know, because I don't want my takes to be going into the void and mean nothing. They're going to go into the void anyway. But if somebody here knows what the hell I'm talking about, then that's something. I also did show it off briefly on stream. I think it was the first radio show Terminus podcast test, which expect more of those. I just was not here last week. Um, hmm. This is the pre-stream stream. Yeah. No thumbnail. Speaking of which, thumbnail, we're back on the number 1 thumbnail, and then we'll go to the number 2 next week. We'll just alternate as long as I remember to alternate them. Yeah, these areas are... The question is, how much do I want to do the detailing on this? Yeah, well, there'll be one this week. I'm aiming to do one this week, and I'm going to start developing and enforcing, like, rules for it, so to speak, for lack of a better word. People get 10 minutes. You have to have fan rank to, bring up anything, which was a thing I was already establishing. But I still will pick people out of the audience if they put their hand up if I ask a specific question, like, oh, have you been in the Viewliners before, or something. And I'm going to be doing some alterations to the server to make it easier to do. We'll see what that looks like, on Sunday or whatever. I don't remember what I'm supposed to be doing on Sunday. Like how I asked what route you were using. No. Like in the... I don't have a way to also keep an eye on the stream chat for that, which is something that I have to work on. I have to work on the setup on my monitor. Excuse me. What exactly it's going to look like, what windows I have open, what I can switch to. Because that is its own little headache. I was running out, I only have one monitor. I was running out of space to pull stuff up, and it didn't have an easy way to switch over to that. It's not that I don't have more monitors. I've got a giant pile of monitors, as a matter of fact, but I have nowhere on this desk to put one. That is the kicker, as it were. This desk is quite small. I'm sure if I really wanted to, I could find a way to squeeze a second monitor onto here, but I just don't think that's going to happen. And getting a bigger desk is out of the question, partially because I've had this desk forever and I don't want to get rid of it, but also because there's just not any room for it. I did sort of extend my desk to the right about a foot because I added a filing cabinet, a very short filing cabinet that is, I could drop some stuff off the right side of my desk onto the filing cabinet if I really wanted to, and then maybe I would have space for a second monitor, but it's not worth it to me. Now, the other thing that I need to do is I need to sort of brief my podcast people or whoever my co-host is to help me out on the bringing people in and vetting somebody who's put their hand up. If it is somebody who is unranked and we are not sure if we know who they are, sort of figuring out if this person feels like they're going to be a troublemaker based on what's in their profile. Because I'm certainly not. I don't want to hesitate to exercise my right as host to say like, no, this person, don't bring that person in. I just, I don't have a way to do everything all on one screen. I certainly, I definitely understand why people who do this more professionally have a more professional looking setup. I mean, duh, right? But, you know, I don't. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I have done a lot uh, with my single monitor for a long time, and I don't think that's going to change. Now, sometimes I have gotten acquainted with using, pulling stuff up on my phone, and that works. That can work to sort of keep track of the stream chat or um, keep track of uh, various things. Keep track of who has their hand up or whatever. The thing that I really need to be able to do is find a way to easily pull stuff up on screen with like the click of one button. And that is more difficult because currently, when I want to pull something up on screen that somebody is showing or somebody has posted or an article or a photo or whatever, I have to open it and then switch OBS over to screen mode, and that's trickier. Um, and then it shows my whole screen and it does the like zoom in picture thing, and then I can flip it over to show something up on the screen for a couple seconds. What I need to be able to do is I need to be able to have like an inset for stuff that I have put up. Whether that means that I am downloading something to a temp folder and then opening it up in like Windows Photo Viewer, um, or what have you. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't figured out a perfect solution for that yet, or even really a good solution. But it needs to be something that we're able to do. I do intend for the radio show to be more of an audio-based show, which is why I have no qualms with just sort of like having whatever in the background, whether that be, a game stream or something. I do want to have something visual because I know that in order to capture the hearts and minds of my countrymen, I need to have something up there, whether that be, Subway Surfers or what, right above the video of me making a recipe. But in seriousness, it's just sort of a way to occupy. It's a way to occupy the dead space if we run out of stuff to talk about or in between stuff to talk about. Um, it's sort of like we've got a podcast, but we've also got, like the equivalent of a Let's Build, right? Um, I asked me for photos of the new stuff. Yeah, well, I want to put stuff up. I want to have a visual aid on screen, and I probably brought them up for a second, but also I wanted to look at them, which is, that's the more important thing, is being able to look at them and to know what you're talking about. Because if I don't know what you're talking about, then I have a tough time commenting on it. It was also to sort of fill the space, right? Something that's important to do and that is on me to do as the host of the show is to make sure that things are always rolling. Um, Asking provocative questions or transitioning to another topic if one has run dry. That's the kind of thing that I have to be on the ball about. And, you know, with that in mind, I need to be able to pull stuff up. Okay, so we've got lots of driveways. We're gonna need to do lots of fences. This is less than ideal. Um, I think I think I'm less of a fan of these town blocks than I thought I would be because of the strange garage placement. Although I realize some of that is my fault because I'm not using these blocks the way they were meant to be used necessarily. Um, yeah, those two can connect. Yeah, because if I move, no, no, okay, yeah. So these are supposed to have a cross street here of some description. That's interesting. I didn't figure that was going to be something that came up. But I think with regard to railroader in general, but the Appalachian Railway in specific, uh, I'm being fussed about the industries and the infrastructure in the Appalachian Railway. Railroader itself, Railroader base game, seems to have taken decent care to make the infrastructure feel realistic, even in the handful of places that it's not, and has made realistic infrastructure accurately to the point where it is the answer to some of these strange questions, or to the questions of strangeness, as it were. Where we're talking the why is Ela like that? Why is the Whittier sawmill like that? Why why are these track arrangements difficult to use? And the answer is because that's the way they were in real life. And hey, Mopac. And the answer for why were they like that in real life is, well, it's a long answer. You know, each piece of railroad infrastructure has a section in the history book behind it, and that's what I've been trying to emulate as we've gone through here to to develop the world that Tolbrand is. Um, I think it's honestly, I don't think that people necessarily shy away from adding a lot of lore to their railroad, but I think that oftentimes the lore does not come before the horse, as it were. Um, and of course, what I mean by that is when we are building, let's say, let's look at this, right? This section through here, especially that right there with the two tracks that come up, the one track that goes over, the 3-track bridge with tracks only on the outer bridges, and then a crossover that that runs into here, and the other track is abandoned all the way through. I didn't build this and then come up with a reason for it. I didn't build this because I thought it looked cool and then come up with a reason for it, which is I think what a lot of people do, and I'm not knocking that. I want to make that clear. I don't think that's the wrong way to build a Trainz route. Build what you want. Um, but when it comes to the Appalachian Railway is not a Trainz route. The Appalachian Railway is what was a real thing, sorry, but also has a whole bunch of industries attached to it that were not there in real life. Um, and that's sort of where I start to scratch my head. Oh, excuse me. Because if we look at, oh, this is the same fence, isn't it? If we look at the way the industries are laid out and the way that things are set up, it really does feel more like I wanted to put this big industry here and I wanted it to sort of look like this, so I just dropped it in there and it looks like this. Um, and that seems to be the end of it. Like obviously there are no lore documents scattered around the railroader world to provide insight. Um, that isn't a thing. As cool as it would be to have the codexes or the codices you can find. Um, this is like a Mr. Rogers kind of fence. We don't need that. Love Mr. Rogers, but don't need the feds. Who is this? Okay, we can use that. Um, you know, if you're building a railroad that is supposed to be real, I guess is sort of where I'm going with this. And the Appalachian Railroad ostensibly is supposed to be real. Everything that you build in Railroader, a map that you put in Railroader is there for people to experience what it's like to run a real railroad, what it's like to operate a realistic railroad in terms of car loads and gradients and distances between industries, that sort of thing. Um, it falls apart a little bit when the world doesn't feel quite right. And there is, in Andrews, there's the Snowbird paper mill. And I don't know how accurate that is to real life, but that's in Vanilla Railroader. And that is, it feels too big and it feels too, not sensible because it is a little bit wonky in places. Um, it's just it doesn't feel like it's accurate. It doesn't feel true to life, even if it is, or it doesn't matter if it is or it isn't. What matters is if it feels right. Um, and that's what we're doing here. And it's different for Appalachian Railway because it is ostensibly a real railroad with a bunch of extra industries. This is not a real railroad, but it needs to feel like one. And to that end, every time I do something, I need to look at the thing that I'm doing and sort of decide why it is that way. Um, is sort of what I'm getting at. Is sort of the difference here. I don't know if I don't know how realistic a lot of the stuff in Railroader is, and I know that a lot of the stuff in the Appalachian Railway certainly is not realistic. Um, but the important thing is that it doesn't feel realistic. I know that none of Tolbrand is real. These track arrangements and industries and towns and everything, they weren't taken from real blueprints. They weren't even necessarily cribbed from anywhere. There aren't real life aspects that I have necessarily cannibalized and reorganized into this. That's that's too much work for me. That's too much effort. That's too much thinking. Uh, and yet, instead, I do an outrageous amount of thinking uh, to sort of make things right anyway. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I lost my way there for a minute. Hold on. Let me just do this to like here. and I want to go look at some place that exemplifies this, right? Um, I'm not going out into the world and finding a spot with this situation and sort of cribbing from it. I make this situation and I try to route build from first principles. I try to think about, well, if this was in real life, what are the factors that would make it, what are the factors that would make it come into being like this, and then what would that influence? You know, um, we have our two tracks that cut through the middle here. I knew that we were going to have a sort of high line that cut through the town. Okay, um, and originally I wasn't sure if it was going to be one track or two, but I thought, okay, it was going to be a bigger deal, so maybe it got cut back. Um, the important thing is that when you do this, it has to look like it's cutting through something and not, the blocks aren't going to follow it. It's going to be doing rude things to the street grid. It's going to be going sort of irrespective of the street grid, and you can see that here. Um, you know, I've made Tolman feel like railroad while taking minimal inspiration from real ideas and locations. I wouldn't say that I'm taking minimal uh, inspiration from real ideas, but yeah, there are a couple of spots there that I've thought, oh, I want to build something like that, like this right here with the Jersey barriers. This is reminiscent of a place I used to go in Albany, near the Central Warehouse, where a bunch of the industrial streets are blocked off like this, or have crossings that have recently been installed. Where they've installed crossings some places, and other places they've blocked it off. They didn't want to install crossing gates on this little spur, so they put some Jersey barriers over it. Um, it's a thing that happens in real life, so I adopted it. Um, there is a place on the old Warwick Railway in Cranston where the still active industrial spur cuts the corner of a parking lot like this. I didn't set out to build a copy of that parking lot, but I saw the opportunity to do something like this, and I recognized that it's something that has happened in real life. Um, excuse me. This is the kind of thing that I think is worth looking out for. It's not necessarily taking scenes and recreating them identically, but going one step deeper and thinking about what made those real life scenes possible. Are those conditions going to be replicated in my railroad? Um, and some of the stuff like a yard like this is not, you know, uh, is not, I don't know how realistic this is. I think my yards are all fairly small. The biggest yard we have is this one down here, and even then, it's not that long. Um, but we'll see how it does in service. The closest thing I have to a roundhouse that is shrunk is this one, because roundhouses are really tough to deal with in trains because they're sort of all one asset. So you just sort of have to take them as they come. Uh, this one exists, so we're using it. I'm trying to think of another example here. I mean, there are plenty of examples of difficult to reach industries like this, or like this, for example. Um, there's no specific prototype that I was aiming for when I was doing really any of Bellington. Uh, but there are patterns. There are patterns that are worth following. And if you follow the patterns, your world will feel realistic. Your world will feel real. Um, and my immersion is removed when those patterns are broken. Um, when when to go back to the old standard, right? When you see something like there's only a couple of blocks in this town, but there's a huge industry. You know, you have this massive, uh, a giant canning facility and a giant uh, industrial plant and a giant brewery and a giant power plant and um, a whole locomotive works. Except they're crammed into a place where even if you don't know how big the town is, you know how much space is available. Um, and this is, and that was a little targeted. I'm talking about Ela in the Appalachian Railway. There are, and I missed the, I think I failed to mention the tie plant. But there are a lot of enormous industries around Ela, which makes for a lot of interesting switching. It really keeps you busy. However, it takes up basically all of the space that would be used for a town, right? And the buildings and tracks aren't aligned in a way that makes it feel like there is a town there somewhere, you just can't see it. Um, like Bryson, as an example, is a little bit better about this because, well, it's easier to see if you pull up Google Maps, but also the track that runs through Bryson and the yard even. It's all it's all spaced in a way that sort of makes sense for the surrounding topography and leaves us enough space for things that are not railroad. Um, there are, a couple of very small industries that are close in a town, and by industries I just mean places to switch, right? Like there's like the general goods place and the coal dealer or coal and lumber or whatever the place is called. Um, and then the big one is Appalachian Hardwoods, and Appalachian Hardwoods is out of town. It's outside of town, a ways, because that's the kind of space you need for that kind of industry. Um, and Appalachian Hardwoods is not a very large industry. Uh, you know, it it definitely keeps you busy. I think it's the thing I find most annoying on the railroad. Uh, but the thing that I think, and this is sort of the crux of the mentality issue behind development in the Appalachian Railway. It's the thing that makes a railroad busy, and I know that everyone just wants tons of stuff. And again, I'm not developers of the Appalachian Railway. If you're listening, I think you did an amazing job. I think that the railway itself, I mean, it's a tremendous amount of work, if nothing else. And how much can I complain? I'm enjoying it. Um, I'm just trying to highlight sort of the mentality of route building uh, that I've come up against, and that I think a lot of people do come up against and are not really sure what to do with themselves when they find that issue. Uh, and the crux of it is, or when they start getting pulled in unrealistic directions. The crux of it is you've got traffic is driven by a lot of small industries in most cases. In the vast majority of cases, it's either one big industry or a lot of small industries. Uh, in certainly in a town the size of anything you would see within 100 miles of the Murphy Branch, um, having if we look at the industries in Ela, right? I wonder if at the theoretical maximum here, and let's look at this. We've got I've never even counted the number of industries we have here in this town, and look at the amount of space this town is taking up and is going to take up. But we've got, I mean, let's just go from the top, right? I'm going to ignore that. But let's go from not the top. We've got some team tracks over here for general goods and mail and stuff. That's fairly straightforward. We've got some kind of distribution place here. We've got general goods. Maybe this is let's say a few cars a day. Let's say four. Let's say four, which is probably, I know four is like the minimum I can do for a lot of commodities. And then two, and then one if I'm really lucky. But if we have like 4, 5, 6 cars here, like another 3 here, that makes 9, and then let's call it, another 6 here. That's 15. Or that's not 15, but oh no, that is 15. And then 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 32 maybe in total with those. And that is these industries. 1, 2, 3. I didn't even look at that one. 4, 5. And look at the size of them. 1 track, 2 tracks, 2 tracks, but one is inaccessible from the platform. 1 track, 2 tracks, one with a small platform. 3 tracks, but one of them isn't necessarily accessible from anywhere. These, and you can easily get 30, 40 cars a day for, you can get a British-sized freight train from this one town. You can get an American-sized freight train from this one town if you consider everything. Actually, if we go over to, oh wait, I have my bookmarks now. If we go over here, and some of this has been messed around. Some of this has been messed with, but for a while I had all the cars, all of the loads bound for Mason Valley on 1 track. Yeah, it was this. All the loads bound for Mason Valley on 1 track. All of these. And I think there were even more, actually. But the point is, there's a lot of them. And Mason Valley is not an outrageously large place. It's fairly dense in terms of industry. But if I can get 40 cars a day out of just that one strip of industries, I don't think the industries in Ela need to be so large. If you spot the boxcars right, yeah, no, you can line up 2 sets of cars, which is definitely a technique. I've seen that done. Excuse me, I've seen that done with the reefers, actually. But this area is fairly dense, and you've got a lot of track work going places. But we don't have a ton of industry tracks parallel with other tracks. Again, I don't know what necessarily the prototypes are that they're working with for the Appalachian Railway. It just feels like the industries are too large, and if they wanted the car count, they can still have that. But every industry getting switched out every day is optimistic, and I feel like I should establish that. That's something that that happens here on Tolbrand. Yeah, that town it does have a barge. That's something that happens on Tolbrand because that's the way I wanted everything to work from the jump, but it does not happen in real life. If you were to make, a Tolbrand size set of industries, if you were to make a Tolbrand size set of industries and have all of the cars switched out every day, then you would equal what the Appalachian Railway is doing on contract level 1, first of all, which is that's scary to me. Um, and also, you would be able to dial that way down. My town had a once daily train except weekends and federal holidays. Now it's twice weekly. An example of dynamic railroading. That that's something that should be more possible. Um, and I'll take my own advice. I haven't increased contracts to a point where it's gotten completely out of hand, because I don't want to, and I don't have the motive power to as well. But that's a different problem. That's sort of the Appalachian Railway situation that it puts you in. The situation that it puts you in, you need more motive power immediately from the jump, and that is your struggle for a while, especially because you get like house track contracts for various things um, for the multitude of pulpwood spurs and house tracks that are scattered all over the map there. And you end up running around like a chicken with your head cut off a little bit to get cars stocked in those, but then they're served like once a week afterward. Um, you don't need to rush to get all of those figured out every single day. You need to take care of like one of them per day. And that is good. I like that. That is the level of traffic, maybe not that little, but it is in some ways the level of traffic that I think suits better. Uh, and again, I know people want lots of railroad. I know people want lots of cars. People want, a reason to use their Berks and their Santa Fe's and their Malays that they downloaded off of Nexus and the gigantic locomotives. My Rare to Save is struggling with, a whole bunch of stuff. And you said you have up to a Larka, right? Um, and that's a respectable railroad. Um, and I have like 5 engines for the Appalachian Railway, and I have a lot of the contracts turned off because there's no way I'd be able to manage that. My recent thing is the um, I turned on the cross traffic because Appalachian Railway gives you another interchange, which is way up there in the mountains. Running like a 3-pole system is not something that I'm looking forward to needing to do, and maybe I will do it someday. I think the thing is, um, the kicker is like, as the railroad gets busier, it takes you longer to sort out the interchange in the morning, and therefore it takes you longer to get those express cars out of there. Which, yeah, what a heart in your throat kind of moment. Like, I never thought Railroader would make me worried about getting stuff done on that kind of time frame, but it gets harder. Okay, there's this. Well, let's put this in here. Let's find some more fences. Lafayette, get out of the trash. You pain. Oh, whoops. This fence is no longer. I'm wondering why I'm finding random stuff that is not the fence that I'm. These are not the fence you're looking for. Um, Putting in driveways and fences is sort of like the minimum we can do, I think. Um, I think, we don't really necessarily need fences that go all the way to the front walk, and some of these areas do not need fences at all because we have a we're far enough from the track, right? The closest tracks, I guess, are over here, so we will be seeing them, but we'll be seeing them rarely, if and when we ever decide to switch these industries out, which this came out pretty good. There's a lot of hype for a Yellowstone. Would it surprise you if I said that a Yellowstone is too big for default railroader? No, because of course it is. Uh, that's the thing. And there's been a lot of fuss about this in the community, about this aspects of the railroader community, not a small aspect, mind you, that just want bigger and more, that want to run all the things ever all the time, and I respect that. I mean, run what you want, um, but you kind of wish that it was a different setting. You kind of wish that we had something else going on other than the Murphy branch. The Murphy branch doesn't feel right with these giant engines. If we had a 200-mile long iron ore run or something, you know, that would be a different story. But of course, now we're playing Run 8, and I don't really care to take 3 hours to go from one end of the railroad to the other at track speed, or more, plus whatever switching you have to do. And I mean, F40 knows that I'm not driving it anyway. I am just putting on the automatic engineer and saying, all right, I'll see this thing later. If it had a better simulation of the driving physics, that would be a different story. That's what keeps Run 8 engaging over a 3 hour long slog fest over, Donner Pass or whatever. That's a thing. That's something that that Railroader is missing to make that kind of gameplay more engaging. So we're stuck with trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, insofar as we want these giant railroads with tons of carloads, but we want everything to also be close enough together that we can, that we can get from one to the other and sort everything out in a couple of hours. We need to not feel pressure to do that, number one. And number two, it's creating the Trainz problem without creating the map for it. It is, we want more in this small space. And if it gets bigger, like physically bigger, it gets boringer much faster. Yeah, different customization options for the diesels would be nice. More varied diesels, like if there were a reason to vary it. I mean, if there were a reason to vary the locomotives at all. I think the greatest mod ever created for Railroader thus far, on a serious note, and I know I have a lot of meme picks, but the best mod created is the used market. It makes... What's up? Oh, thank you. Where did these come from?
I made cookies.
Oh, thank you. Ooh, they're actually soft this time.
I made the Christmas ones, and I made the pumpkin spice ones.
Which ones are these?
Those are the Christmas ones.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if you wanted pumpkin spice.
No, I'm okay without them. Don't we still have cookies on the porch? Okay. Well, now I've got cookies in front of me. Yeah, no, I agree that we don't need a 484. And that's... I need to do the work to pull all this stuff, pull all these thoughts back to Trainz. Also, I did not see you show up, Mossy Mug. Hi, Mossy Mug. Those are a little dry. I cannot eat one of these during the show. You're a little late, but it's okay. We'll forgive you this time. FTs would be better with Railroader, same with NW2s. Yeah, the thing with the diesels, the thing with locomotive selection in general, is that the Murphy branch is the kind of railroad where, aside from red marble, you can pretty much get away with anything. Um, Back in the day, they ran it with some relatively light power, but we're under no obligation to do that because we can't, the track does not care. There's no, you know, deterioration mechanism yet. There's no, you didn't upgrade the rail, and so the locomotive just crashed through the track and destroyed everything, um, yet. And, you know, like you can, oh, you're assembling a new sectional, sweet. Um, you can, you can get away with most things. And yeah, I mean, at some point you'll get to the contract level where, okay, yeah, you can't do that anymore. You can't bring the little engine anymore because it just it doesn't do anymore, right? Um, but until we get, there's a reason that we had such a simplified locomotive meta because there are only a few numbers, and this might be shaken up by maintenance of way stuff that's coming in the next major update. Uh, it might be. I don't know what they have planned. Hopefully they've heard the community on a thing or two, and also hopefully they have a clear vision. That's a different topic though. The Lost my train of thought. Uh, you can get away with kind of whatever you want. Um, Again, you're going to struggle on the hills a little bit. You need something moderately powerful. You need a consolidation, or you need a big mogul, or you need whatever. But it doesn't matter all that much because the railroad is fairly homogeneous, and there isn't really there aren't a lot of pressures on you as a player to choose your power carefully. Um, so to that end, you can instead pick the thing that makes the most statistical sense based on a very low number of factors. Um, and the thing is, I can't speak super eruditely about this because I never cared to learn what those factors are. I know it has to do with the cost. I know it has to do with the power to weight ratio. I know it has to do with, um, the attractive effort and stuff. The handful of stats that they give you, out of that handful of stats, only a couple really matter enough to influence your decision, and that decision is already made. People figured out what the best picks are like within 1 week of the game's release, and they made a cult about it, and we're kind of just stuck with it now. Oh, you know what? I'm actually going to get rid of this. That's sort of where we are, and that's why the used market mod I think was so important, because it meant that you could not just pick the best locomotive available, the best locomotive in the entire game, whenever you wanted to. It meant that if you needed a locomotive to do a job, you had to go out and find one that maybe could do it. And again, Murphy branch, pretty homogenous. You can sort of get away with anything. Um, you can do, you can do moguls. You can do consolidations. You can do decapods. You can do, a couple of the bigger engines. And like, sure, you will probably end up with a smattering of stuff, but there's like no pressure to make that happen. There's no pressure for you to have a weird roster. Um, that's yeah, 3,000 cars of ballast, yes, um, and 500 cigarettes. All right, just keep doing. Should I keep doing fences down through here? I guess so. I like this fence. We haven't used that one before. Century of Steam is looking to fix that. I mean, they certainly have a vision about what they want to do. And the devlogs are all fantastic. It really does seem like they're moving in a very positive direction. It excites me. It excites me. Um, but you know, I as much as I could end every conversation with Century of Steam is going to do this better. That's boring. Um, and I'm not going to judge the game. Like, I'm excited for it, but I'm not going to judge Century of Steam, nor am I going to judge its contemporaries, or competitors even, with respect to it until I've got them both in front of me. I think that despite the fact that if you look at the catalog of train games that are out there in the world, or just train, I'll expand my search to train related pieces of software. um, Even if you look at that, there's sort of a niche for everything. There are very few things where I feel like here is a game that is completely outdone in every respect by another game. uh, some games are completely outdone in every respect by other games, plural, but not all of those things at once. Um, it is, and I wish I could think of some examples off the top of my head. Of course, the default like whipping boy lately has been Railroads Online, and Railroads Online is, I mean, I don't really know where to begin with talking about RO. It was a lot of fun when I played it. I can say that much. I can say that I had fun with it, despite the fact that it was kind of a buggy catastrophe, and by all accounts still is. Um, it is something where you can jump on with friends and it gives you defined purpose, and you can, mess around with that purpose. You can do stuff to that end. And when it screws up, you pick up the pieces and continue down the road you were going on. Railroads Online has track laying, which almost nothing else at that. It's first person. It's a first person game. It is a sort of tycoon style game with very basic tycoon style industries like open TDD style industries, locomotion style industry chain. Um, but it's first person. Your boots on the ground. You're building the railroad. You've got to do your civil engineering. You've got to run the thing in first person. It does a bunch of things that really no other game does all of. Um, the exception is probably like some stuff on Roblox, some things that have sort of been born out of frustration in areas where you can create the game from scratch, with tools. And I know that's what programming is, but you know, I I'll be the first to admit it. While I've never played Roblox, or at least I haven't in 15 years, and while I understand there's a lot of negativity around it, uh, I am constantly impressed by how powerful a tool Roblox is for creating things, creating games. Um, it seems like in some respect, it seems like it's more powerful even than Gary's mod. Mainly because Gary's mod is tied to a very old engine. And Roblox isn't a spring chicken either, of course, but it it has it's very stretchy. It's very stretchy. It has a lot of things that you can do with it, uh, and like that demands respect, I think. I'm not gonna look down on somebody by what software they choose to load up on their computer, what games they choose to play. That's between that's their prerogative. That's their business. They're not hurting anybody, and it kind of bugs me when people turn their nose up at various things, games, or media or what have you. It's, you know, there's so little that's actually harmful. You're just being, you're just gatekeeping. You're just being rude. What do you gain, you know, by feeling like you're better than? But I feel like I've got to put that boilerplate on every time I mention Roblox because somebody will get fussy about it. Uh, and I've also, I've got to say that I've just barely played it. I've just barely touched it. And I'd be interested to because from what I've seen, because what I've seen has impressed me. That's the bottom line. What I've seen has impressed me. Um, but even then, that is something that, despite it being in this sort of stretchy place, um, it is limited by the fact that it's a game within a game. You know, it does have limitations because of that, and that makes me not want to say, well, don't. I mean, it kind of does make me want to say, don't buy Railroads Online. Just go get Roblox and play Steam and Steel or whatever the most recent iteration of that is. Um, but there isn't a perfect analog. Other than that, I'm not aware of a perfect analog to Railroads Online. Um, and that's what's interesting, And we will get maybe Century of Steam will be that perfect analog, but I'm not going to make that judgment call yet. It looks like it could be, but we don't know really what all is in store there. We know what they want to do. We don't know yet what they will do uh, until we have it in front of us. Um, this is a very short hedge. I wish I had a taller hedge. Yeah, no. What about this one? Oh yeah, that's like a proper hedgerow. You get a Sherman tank stuck on this thing. Um, okay, let's just run this straight through here, right up to the road. Um, but you know, you've got that. Everything has something that it does best, I think. I don't think there's a game where I don't think there's a piece of software that is just better than another one completely. There are certain situations where the exceptions are, I suppose, in a series, but like yeah, you'd kind of hope that Train Fever is better than Transport Fever. Sorry, that Transport Fever is better than Train Fever, and Transport Fever 2 is better than Transport Fever, and Transport Fever 3 is going to be better than Transport Fever 2. Like you would hope, if a developer is doing their due diligence, that you know you're not you're not going backwards, right, between game versions. Doesn't always happen, but you'd hope. Um, and for that reason, I think I want to sit down and I want to gather up all of the nominees, right, and I want to put together a flow chart. Start here. So you want to buy a train game, start here. Um, and I think one of the ones right now would be like, actually, I don't really care about all that stuff. I just want to build routes. I just want to build a world. And it would be like a real looking world or a model railroad looking world. And that would be the split. It'd be trains or rolling line. Um, Trains and rolling line are in two very similar camps. Um, and I feel like that goes without saying. Train started off a as a model train. Like rolling line is what Trains wanted to be in 2004. And if you go back and look at some of the old, like the old OG routes, that's what it feels like, you know? TSM is a good entry game because you get route building. Oh, TSC. Oh, Train Simulator Classic. You got route building, running the trains, and either switching running passenger trains or long distance train. Train Simulator Classic is the dovetail, like the OG dovetail stuff, right? Um, I I it definitely is better at the running. You know, it's definitely better at running stuff than Trainz sort of ever was. Okay, let's see. I mean, I've got Ribs calling my name. I feel like I need to think about getting more of these done. I am. I still don't know why these aren't working, and I'm not sure if I can get them to work again. Although I don't remember these both being here. Hmm. Yeah, I need to work on this area a little bit. I'm not in the headspace. I don't know why. It's also kind of a quiet night around here. I know I'm yakking, but that's not it's not everything it could be. Let's see. Did I start right at 7? So we've been here for an hour and 21 minutes. Okay, I started almost right at 7. Okay. This this school I need to make work. And I think one of the things we're going to need is we're going to need like a black top out here. Um I don't know about yous, but uh the black top was like a formative space in my childhood. Um let's see. I think I want some other kind of grass around the edge here. I want it to be a little bit unkempt, perhaps, around the edge. And I can put some grass and shrubs in here. We just maybe we'll do the texture first and we will figure out what to do with it with the rest of it later. Let's see. If we have the black top there and we have like a portable here, that was the point of this. I actually might do a second run of blacktop on this side. The portables at my school were in the blacktop. And what's funny is I'm saying this out loud over and over again, and I don't know if I've ever heard anyone outside of my elementary school reference a paved area as a blacktop. If anyone has ever done that, please let me know because it would make me feel a lot less alone. Um, okay, so we've got this. We've got this funeral home. Um, Yo, it's Chris says the elementary school blacktop was where second grade me created my world-renowned recess game Train, where I would run around in laps pretending that I was a train. The good old days. Uh, that's oh man, that's legendary. Actually, I love that. I love learning that. I cannot remember if I did that, but I do have this weird and vague memory of it must have been like first grade. This is going to be a very bizarre story. It must have been like first grade, and my school was teaching. We were doing like days of the week, or no, it was months of the year, I think. It was months of the year. And so we would um I need a wall for this actually. Uh we had a little song that we would sing to do months of the year, but we were doing it in English and we were doing it in Spanish. And during the Spanish portion, I guess I was uninterested in learning the months of the year in Spanish, and my solution to like what should I do during this time was to close my eyes, imagine trains, and make train sounds. And I remember my teacher. All right, see you, Battleship. See you, Orion. I remember my teacher just being like, "Stop doing that. That's not what you're here to do. Why are you making train sounds? You need to be singing the months of the year." Um, I, you know, that's I don't know why. That might be my only memory from whatever grade that was. Is is closing my eyes, imagining trains, making train sounds while everyone else is singing the months of the year, and my teacher being like, "Cut it out." Um, it's what's funny is that memory has been coming back to me more and more, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned it to a single soul in the last 20 years. Uh, that's oh man, you guys are getting my deepest darkest secrets today. This is what happens when I don't have a plan. I really need the little 4 foot median sidewalk thing. Or hold on. Oh, what do you know? I was hoping I could find it. I need to tally up how many carloads. That's what I should do. I should go into the spreadsheet. I should look at how many carloads at current production each town or each catchment area uh, takes in and puts out. Okay, where were we? We were over here. Actually, no, that's fine. Because that staircase goes down that way. Okay, okay. I'm fine with this. Um, I think I will put some gravel over here so that we can have some parking down there. And let's finish extending this wall around the edge here. It actually needs to come up to here before it's going to stop being... Before the road stops being straight, right? Because that, I mean, well, there's already a little kink in it because of that right there. But I should put the wall here. Almost got it. Not quite. Let's scoot this guy to the left, like that. And then to the left like that. And there we go. I haven't used Surveyor 2 for very much today. I need to get back into the vein of doing that. So that goes there. Why do I have? Oh, okay, never mind. It's like, why do I have pings? Good old DM group. Okay, this goes here, and then attach that to the... Oh, what on earth? Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, well, put this here. Yep. Put this here. Scoot this over here, and then straighten that out like that. Okay. I have put this wall around part of the school, not all of it. I need to get around to doing the rest of it, apparently. This way. And I probably actually want a little gate over here. I don't... know if we have something that we can use for a gate, so I'm just going to make a hole in the wall. Show me the hole in the wall. And then there, and then there, and then we're going to have this hole in the wall directly up from the entrance to this school building here. Something I've noticed is in the days before, I mean, school buses have been around for plenty a while, but there used to be, schools used to be a lot closer together, is what I'm getting at. Used to have smaller schools closer together instead of one giant regional monstrosity with 2,000 students. Let's move this up to here. So I'm not super fussed that we've got this school and also the one right across the river. Let's put this here. And I know this has a curb on one side, but it is what it is. We make do with what we have. I'm really in a state of mind where I am fine with if that's true, then why did Grandpa have to walk 30 miles over a minefield to get to school? Uphill both ways in the snow. It's so that reason is that schools were everywhere as well, but so were the minefields. So it was much more, it was much more likely that you'd encounter one when you went to school. And because of that likelihood, sometimes people went to schools that were quite far away because they had to go around fewer minefields to get to them. Obviously. Did they teach you anything? We could make this one of these like cool hippie schools and put a greenhouse in the back. Every time I see an open space, I'm just like, oh yeah, slap a greenhouse there. We're having Tolbrin is sustainable. I'll tell you what, Tolbrin is green as heck. That's not how that building is supposed to look, but whatever. Yeah, I would attach something here. Actually, the thing that should go back here is like a tennis court. Right? Like tennis courts or basketball courts, something, some sort of recreational thing. I was thinking like a gymnasium, but we don't necessarily need, like, I'm not going to go looking for another building. But I know I have like a basketball court. Yeah, Vietnam moment. Yeah, well, that's if you nope, wrong thing. Control Shift F. If you grew up in Europe, of course, you had all of the extra like unexploded ordnance that you had to get around. Cortland Amtrak station. It's actually a nice station. Way too modern, but nice. Courthouse. We got we got a couple of basketball courts. I'll put a basketball court here. There we go. Basketball court. Why is there no walkway to get to it? Don't ask questions. Don't worry about it. Oops, that's... Don't worry about it. Yeah, I don't know. This is a little close to this for me to be skimping on the detail, but it is what it is. This is the kind of thing where maybe someday I'll come back, I can always add, right? Like, I talk about redoing Olive, but I don't really want to redo Olive for multiple reasons. One of those reasons being, in order to redo Olive, I would have to rip out what's there. I would have to go backwards. And that is not something that I should do or should want to do. Um, but if I have an area where I go, you know what, I didn't add enough trees, or I never added fire hydrants, or I never added telephone poles. I can come back and I can add those things. It doesn't cost me anything other than time. It doesn't mean that our time is wasted. Um, One of the things that is an old mantra for me that I haven't mentioned in a while is any progress is good progress. Or more aptly, any progress is progress, which is to say that it doesn't really matter what we're doing, where as long as we're making headway, as long as something is going from an incomplete stage to a slightly less incomplete stage, we are working on the route. We are getting closer to a finished condition. Something that, is never going to happen, but, you know, could dream about it. My middle school had a basketball court plopped in the middle of an open field with no pathway to it. Okay, cool. Then we built your middle school. Hey, this is what we were talking about towards the beginning of the show, where you don't necessarily have to replicate a specific prototype, or you don't have to have a specific prototype in mind to replicate, but you can just as well have circumstances that led to it, and think about what those circumstances are, and then have a duplicate based on identical circumstances instead of wanting to duplicate something. In this case, I would imagine, as with many things, I don't know the age of your school, but this school probably predates basketball as a major high school sport. Um, so, that's an answer. It's an explanation. So they had some open space, so they added a basketball court. Unfortunately, that's where the greenhouse was. So, okay, if we add that, and we need to put some grass in around the sides. We have some of the asymmetric grass here, which this is a good grass spline. But actually, I want something slightly larger than this. This is all the asymmetric grass. This is all that kind of grass. What about on the side of the... I'm lost. There it is. This JVC grass. Yeah, okay, there we go. And there, and there. The other thing, and maybe like the corollary, is there's a prototype for everything. I'm sure everyone here has heard that before. You can think of the wackiest thing you can do in a model railroad, and somewhere out in the world, that happened. It doesn't matter if it's like a weird consist, weird infrastructure, like, it's amazing that I don't know of any towns named Gory and defeated, but, this is the kind of thing that you can sort of get away with whatever you want, as long as you sort of follow the principles of physics and realism, right? Something can feel unrealistic, but as long as it really doesn't break anything, it might not be too unrealistic. And by break anything, I mean something like having a massive industrial town with no residential areas. That's my old standard. In fact, there are some areas over here that I think are fairly unrealistic, but are not necessarily actually out of scope for reality. So much empty real estate along the riverbank in an industrialized town like this might be a little surprising, but really, not every spot along a river is great to put a mill. And if you're thinking back to the era where you really needed to put mills along a river, you couldn't space them too closely, otherwise they would interfere with each other, especially if the river is not heavily sloped. Okay. You know what I need? I need another baseball diamond. I think this is the only baseball diamond, aside from the big stadium, This might be the only one in Bellington and South Bellington. Um, I should add a park. I need to add a park with like a running track, maybe. Um, Also, this was before the EPA, so rivers and mill towns were horrendous. Well, yeah, but I'm not modeling the pollution. Um, I need a larger park with like a running track in it, I think. And I don't know where I would put that. In fact, maybe I would put it over here. Yeah, we have another school building here, and we have a stadium here with a football field. Um, the thing with a park like that is like it's gonna kind of be nestled in a corner. Um, I could put it here. I don't remember what this was supposed to be. I don't know what that M is for. Honestly, I have no idea. Um, hmm. If only I'd written more than the letter M. M. Or is it a W for Wombo? Hmm. The Androscoggin River in my hometown is the reason why Edmund Muskie founded the EPA. 6-foot layer of toxic foam. Nice! That's a lot of toxic foam. Okay. Oh well, that's right. I was building this. I was putting an industry across the street here because I decided we needed more weirdly placed industries. Um, I'm gonna add a question mark. You know, something with a running track. Um, and actually, we could even have this because this is sort of above the mills. If we scoot this shoreline back a little bit, we could even have like a sort of dirty beach here along the edge. Um, can I find something like that I can use? Like, I think I might have something like this over here by Constance. Yeah, that's what I want to put over here. What's interesting is as we finish certain areas, and we sort of push on to the next set of areas, I'm being naturally pushed to the next set of areas. Like I'm not. How do I put this? We finish areas here, so I work on stuff further and further and further afield. It's not like I'm deciding to expand the radius, it just sort of naturally comes. We've got a school there, we've got a school there, we've got a school here, which is going to be the largest one, I think. Well, no, it's not, because there's this one over here. So we've got lots of schools. In fact, what I may need more of is churches. We might be a little short on churches. Um, and there's like no good police stations or government buildings. Um, so that kind of makes some things difficult in terms of getting a reasonable distribution of services. Or yeah, of services. Um, let's put this here. Yeah, why not? We've got another church there. The church can be like, the funeral home and the church being next to one another is pretty serendipitous, I think. Um, I need to go and spend some time in some mill towns, and then come back and figure out what this all is going to look like. And then let's see, where did I put that? UC under construction. I don't remember what that means either. Oh, here's the block of town that I took. that I'm going to try to see if I can figure out how to make copy pasting work with these. Take me to God's country, Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Said no one ever. Um, why did I not take you to Woonsocket when you were here? They're gonna be their Polar Express is up and running, I think. But yeah, no, I think I'm out of steam for the day, and I'm not gonna force myself. So I think we'll wrap things up here so I can enjoy these cookies and some ribs and some other things and some time with my wife and all that jazz. So thank you all for joining me, and tell your friends about the show where we rant about random stuff and work on God's most difficult to build Trainz route. See you next week. This is the Admiral, signing off.